Okay, welcome everyone to, as you can see here, English 203, Reading and Writing About Literature 2. If you're in this class, that means you've taken probably the first literature. So this class is going to function in the same way. So just to cover, today we're just going to cover the course outline, go over what is expected within this class this semester. So I'm Jeremy Jackson. This is winter 2021. WBMD is the section for this English 203 class. Uh, just some of my contact information here is my office phone number. I'm not going to be there because we're all sort of teaching from home. So uh, the way you can reach out to me is just through email, as you can see here, jjackson@mezhatcollege.ab.ca. And I'll list that at the end of this lecture. The room number doesn't really count or matter because I'm not in a brick and mortar Medicine Hat College campus. So just note, and it's going to become imperative throughout the semester that you know the idea, the concept of contacting me through email. And just to pick up, just sort of piggyback on that idea, um, you can contact me at any time for this class. I'm required to hold office hours for an hour each day between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. I chose those hours, but you can literally reach out to me within reason at any point during the day, and I'll get back to you. Um, Usually within the hour during the weekdays. So this calendar description of this course, English 203, Reading and Writing About Literature 2. This course focuses on reading and writing about literature written in English. So we're going to cover poetry, drama, prose is what's required, with an emphasis on post-19th century writers. Instruction in critical writing is part of this course. Note, students cannot receive credit for both English 203 and English 1152. It's 42 hours with this class, which culminates to be 3 credit hours that you receive. My office hours we touched upon before, as we have shifted to an alternate instruction, that online instruction. Feel free to contact me via email anytime during the week in order to field any concerns or to seek any clarification for this class. An optimal time to email me would be, in order to receive my prompt response, would be between these hours. And here's my email once again. But again, I'm emphasizing this because this is important. Oops, sorry. This is going to become important because we're not meeting face to face, even online through Blackboard Collaborate necessarily, unless enough students reach out to me saying, "Yeah, I think it would be really helpful if we were able to meet." I think we will meet a couple times during the semester. I'll set it up so we can meet online, just so I can sort of clarify any point that didn't seem to be clear if you reached out to me through email. But we're not going to meet online every class. What we will do is I'll send you a YouTube link every class that you received for this YouTube link. And I'll outline anything that's due, where I'll lecture and then go over what's due and go over some possible examples, uh, of essay writing students have written in prior semesters that certainly will help you craft your own essays. Uh, so learning resources down here. There's a lot of books required for this class, right? Four. So purchase your learning resources can be done through the campus bookstore online, then pick them up. I would recommend, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. They mark them up a certain amount of money, a dollar amount, right? I would just recommend buying them online through Amazon, or even get the digital copy of these books, these texts. Up to you, completely up to you. If you want to have a physical book in front of you, or if you want to use a digital copy. I find a digital copy handy because you're able to do sort of an internal search in order to pull quotes, from the texts. You can hit Control F on any text, and then sort of type in any word you want to find, or any paragraph you want to find, or any passage you want to find that you think is evocative and seductive, and you want to use it within your essay, right? Um, I think it's handy to have the digital form in order to do so, that internal search. Okay, so just a quick review of the required texts that are for this class. Black Zodiac is a collection of poetry written, gosh, I think it was 2008 by Charles Wright. Charles Wright, famous poet in America. He's getting older. He's in his 80s, I think. But this is book prior to this. Chickamauga is the name of it. Won the Pulitzer Prize. Sometimes I alternate between those two books for the poetry within 203. So Black Zodiac, we're gonna lecture on that. Let's see, on January 12th. So it's gonna be important by January 12th that you would have read at least the beginning, like say half of the book. I think it's 80 pages long, so read 40 pages of the poetry. And just a quick note, Black Zodiac is sort of hard, it's difficult, it's challenging to read. Charles Wright writes in a he has a personal aesthetic the way he writes. He writes in a sort of ethereal way about nature. But you'll receive a large lecture on Black Zodiac, a few lectures on Black Zodiac that I'll go over some of the harder concepts that he's grappling with. So just go with it. Have half of it read at least by the due date, January 12th, just so you understand what's going on when I'm lecturing about it. You can make connections while I'm lecturing about it because would have already covered the text. Uh, and just don't try to drill down on any of the concepts necessarily yet within Black Zodiac, unless because it would be you might get through like three poems and be like, oh, I don't understand what he's saying. I wouldn't really try to focus on what he's necessarily saying. Just try to get through it, and then I'll sort of center us on what he's trying to say, some themes that will emerge out of Black Zodiac. Okay, enough about Black Zodiac. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. Many of you might be familiar with Slaughterhouse-Five, or maybe even Kurt Vonnegut, hopefully. So a famous book. Received a lot of acclaim. It's a sort of semi-autobiographical because it's about war, World War II, being in Dresden as a prisoner of war in Germany, and then the Americans coming in and carpet bombing Germany. It's a fun book. It's interesting. It sounds macabre because it's war and people are dying. But it's actually considered an anti-war novel. It's going against the grain of war. It's not glorifying war. So we're going to cover that book. A really good book. I think you'll enjoy reading that. There is the most modern book, most contemporary book of all these texts. It was written just like last year, 2019, by Tommy Orange. He's an indigenous Native American writer. He's American, so it's a common term to use Native American in America. I know we don't use that in Canada, but he's sort of probably the youngest of all these authors. Well, a couple of these authors are dead, but so it's interesting to sort of incorporate a very contemporary work and sort of see how people are writing today as well as, say, 60 years ago, as we see with Slaughterhouse-Five, or 50 years ago. Then the final one is a play, a drama, Fences. Really amazing play. Written by a famous playwright, African-American, August Wilson. And it's semi-autobiographical as well. It's about a garbage man living in Pittsburgh, has a family in the 1950s. So he's facing a lot of racial injustice. He wants to get promoted to driver, but he gets pushed back because he's African American, he's black, right? He had dreams and aspirations that never came true. He wanted to become a Major League Baseball player, and he could have. He had talent enough. He was in the Negro League, it was called, but he could never get promoted and get a chance to play in the Major League Baseball, right? Because he was black. So it touches upon a lot of these heavy themes of racial injustice. And There touches upon that as well. Tommy Orange is there in the novel. Touches on sort of being Native American and the racial injustice of living on a reservation and what sort of culminates, what it exists in that realm, that arena of existence. So some interesting text. What's great about Fences, the drama, the play by August Wilson, is that it has a movie counterpart that you can watch. I think it's on Netflix. Denzel Washington stars as the main character. He does an amazing job. So I implore you to gain greater understanding is to watch that when we get to this at the end of the semester, Fences. Okay, so note here, students will require a computer with internet and a webcam in order to engage in Blackboard Collaborate. A Microsoft Word is required for this class. All students can download Office 365 for free at this web address. So a couple notes here that I want to make. It says Blackboard Collaborate that we might meet. I'm going to set up a couple times when we do meet later in the semester just so I can sit there and wait for you to come in, for an hour and give you the opportunity to ask questions face to face. Otherwise, we won't. It'll simply be the format of this class operates thusly. I'll send you a link to a YouTube video and give you instructions if there's anything due that day or that week on how to post it to Blackboard. Everything's going to get posted to Blackboard this semester. Any material that's due, any assignments, any essays, right? Any interactions we're going to have, it will be through Blackboard. And also, it's going to become imperative to download Microsoft Word Office 365 if you don't have it, because you have to turn in a Word document for your essays via Blackboard, upload it to Blackboard, right? I can't, past semesters I've had individuals hand in essays, the final essay of this class at the end of the semester, and it was written in the program on Apple, which is Pages, and I couldn't open it. And I emailed them and I couldn't get a hold of them. And what am I left to do if I can't open it? I can't give you a grade for something that I can't open, right? So make sure you do that. Download Microsoft Word. Um, Course objectives, learning outcomes. So the course objectives, this course offers an introduction to literature published after 1900, along with training in the essential skills needed to study and write about literature at the university level. A number of overarching questions will guide our discussions as we examine a selection of poetry, prose, and drama, of which we already went over. Uh, that guided overarching question will be, how does a particular text relate to the broader cultural milieu from which it emerged? So milieu is just a fancy French term, which means the time, the sort of the era that it sprung up in. You know, we might ask that big, large question of how does it interact with other material that was written in that milieu at that time? What values are seemingly at play in that text, and how might they differ from our own values? What seems to make a particular text attractive or to different audiences? So in Tommy Orange's There, a Native American writer writing about Native Americans, it might have greater appeal. We might want to write an essay where it has greater appeal, and you're making the argument that it has greater appeal to one audience over another, an indigenous or Native American audience over their experience over, say, a white individual. Let's see. Our discussions this term will also focus on a specific theme, and that theme is the representation of social and personal pathologies. So, how, we will be asking, have these pathologies been defined, and how might they relate to one another? What can specific literary works tell us about their illness, or sorry, where illness comes from, and how it might be cured or mitigated? So, if you think about that framework, that thematic framework of pathologies, or just mental illness in general, or mental illness. Within there's a character that is suffering from um, his mother was an alcoholic and he had fetal alcohol syndrome, so he's suffering with that, and sort of that affects his mental illness. The mental illness that would be maybe a physical illness or a trait of a physical illness, but also it plagues him mentally and psychologically. We might think about how being a black African American man in the 1950s with racial turmoil and tumult would mentally plague the main character within Fences, and how that legacy is passed on to his son. So you could see, and then within Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, we can sort of frame that around the idea of the mental illness or pathology. They're synonymous, these terms. How war causes PTSD, seemingly, on the main character, Billy Pilgrim. So I'll help sort of extrapolate some of these things like I just did throughout as the semester goes on, give you ideas of where how maybe you want to go towards gravitate towards certain ideas within your essays, and you don't have to write on mental illness. This is a guiding theme that we're required to put in the course outline. You don't have to frame your essays towards it necessarily. I think most of the essays can be on different subject matter. It can center around different subject matter other than the pathologies of mental illness. But think about it. It's a good sort of brainstorming exercise, and to sort of think about how these essays, especially these texts that I chose, can center around pathologies and mental illness. Okay, so learning outcomes. Excuse me. Committed students will gain a foundational understanding of and expertise in critical reading and writing about literature published after 1900. I mean, it's the biggest sort of guiding principle within this class is to really dig into these works, hear me lecture on these texts, you sort of understand and you connect through my lectures to these texts, and then you are able to formulate a good argument on paper about these texts with an original idea that you come up with, or that you pull from the class, you cherry pick from my lectures. That's fine too, right? As I mentioned, ideas, they're perfectly up for grabs for you to integrate those ideas as your thesis statement within your essay. Another component of this class will be just the basic structure, the mechanics of writing. Are you grammatically sound? Do you have proper sentence structure? Do you have proper paragraph structure? Is your works cited page correct? Is your MLA, and the third component I would say this is MLA, Modern Language Association. Your formatting style is what we're going to use within any English class that you'll ever be in higher education. We'll use MLA formatting style. It governs the way a paper looks. It governs what the works cited page looks like. It governs what the in-text citations look like and how they correspond to the entries on the works cited page. That's going to become an important component within this class. large part of your grade is it MLA sound? In prior classes, you might be familiar with APA. In science classes, depending on what your major is, uh, psychology classes use APA. We don't use that within this class. It's important, highly important, that you use MLA, that I don't get papers that are written in APA. And I'm going to receive papers that are written in APA, but I'm just forewarning you now that please, because we're going to go over MLA in a PowerPoint next class. I know it says we're going to go over it today, but I've pushed it down to, let's see, actually I pushed it down to January 12th, that we're going to go over MLA PowerPoint. So you're going to be able to give a thorough, I'm going to give you a thorough, kind of boring PowerPoint, but it's going to outline all the aspects of MLA. Okay. So here we have the detailed course content, topics, and sequencing. The following schedule is provisional. We may adjust the sequencing depending on the pace of the class discussions. Okay, so quite a few things are due. An essay is due on every book. So there's 4 books, 4 texts, right? So that means 4 essays are the basic things that are due. But there's smaller, tiny things that are due. All are going to be through Blackboard. So January 5th today, we're going over the course outline, course introduction, expectations. I said we're not going to do MLA PowerPoint today. We're going to move that down to January 12th. Excuse me, January 7th, Elements of Poetry Review. Review rubric. So I'm going to go over a rubric that's going to help guide you. It's really going to point out what an A paper is, what a B paper is, what a borderline A minus A paper, borderline B minus B paper, all the way down to a failing paper. So you'll be able to have that to understand. And when you maybe come to me and say, oh, I think you gave me an A minus, I deserve 1 point more to an A, I'll point you towards the rubric, and the onus will be on you to convince me for that 1 point. Okay, so then we start January 12th with Black Zodiac. So it's going to become important that you have it by then. And when I say review, it just means lecture. I'm going to send you a link to a YouTube lecture on Black Zodiac. January 14th, Black Zodiac review continued. In class, so you can see right now, here we go. Here's an assignment too. In class reader response number 1 via Blackboard. So I'll send you instructions on the morning of January 14th. And by the way this class is going to structured as well is I'll send you a link every Tuesday and Thursday that we have class by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Usually it'll be by 10 o'clock, but the latest I'll send a link out for you to listen to will be by 2 o'clock. So when we do the in-class reader response, you have all day to go into Blackboard. I'll send you the instructions that morning, the instructions for how to go in there. And I'll give you a question. I'll pose a question. And you have to go in there and respond to it. And it'll be about the text that we're reading for that month, which in this case will be Black Zodiac, the collection of poetry by Charles Wright. And then it continues the review, the lectures on Black Zodiac, just so we can get through the whole collection. And then we compare it to other works by Charles Wright. I'll give you a lecture on Chickamauga. And then you can see we move on. 1 month is dedicated, nearly 1 month is dedicated to poetry, to one element of this class. Then we move on to the next element. That's the element of fiction. We review the elements of fiction, just like we did here, elements of poetry review. And then I'll lecture you on the actual text. Sorry. Let's see. And then you receive the lecture for the text, and then we'll discuss ideas for how you want to craft your essays maybe. Let's see. So we go through Black Zodiac, move on to fiction. Now we're on Slaughterhouse 5, January 28th. Let's see. Then you can see the short essay is due by February 4th. And that'll be due via Blackboard. I'll send you instructions that morning on how to upload it to Blackboard. And you can see some days when things are due, like here, we're not going to necessarily have a class, a lecture that day. You're just going to have all day to finish your essay, polish it off, and then upload it to Blackboard. So let's see. And then here we have discussion number 1. I'll start a discussion within Blackboard. I'll send you instructions through email to you on how to go in there and then add to the discussion. And you don't have to, it's just a couple sentences, right? I'll start the discussion. Discussion can go in any direction. I'm just giving you one direction where it can go, and you can choose to comment on my discussion feed or add your own or comment on someone else's. What I want to avoid is someone just saying, oh yeah, I agree with what you're saying about Slaughterhouse 5. It is that. Don't do that generic sort of comment. Try to have something that has substance to it. Then this will become important right here, February 15th or 16th and February 18th, no class. Give you a bit of a respite from academics. February 23rd. Then we start the novel There. We move past Slaughterhouse-Five onto There. Tommy Orange's novel. Let's see. In class reader response number 2, you can see due via Blackboard on February 25th. And then we continue with There. Short essay number 2, due March 11th. So we're starting to get through this semester, in the middle of the semester. And then we move on to elements of drama. I'll lecture you on what the elements of drama are, and I'll lecture you 2 classes on Fences, the drama. And then we'll move on to the in-class reader response. At the next class, the discussion. And then we're going to talk about April 1st, which is interesting, is the cinema adaptation discussion on on Fences. And they also adapted in the 1970s, 1973, I think. Slaughterhouse-Five got adapted into a film. So we'll just discuss that maybe. Have a quick discussion about it. Then we'll review MLA. I'll send you the link to the PowerPoints, or to the YouTube link, so you can go over it again if you wish, because we're going to have elements of poetry. Sorry. Just for your final essay. I'll just send you a refresher for this MLA. And then April 8th, elements of poetry, fiction, drama, test via Blackboard. It's 25 question test. You just go into Blackboard. I'll send you instructions. It's multiple choice. And then April 14th, you have the entire day to take the test, by the way. If you have accommodations, letters of accommodation, it should be fine because you have the whole day, 24 hours to take the test in Blackboard. April 14th, final essay due via Blackboard. Okay, so notice that's on a Wednesday, even though our class meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Instructional techniques. This class relies heavily on the use of Blackboard and Medicine Hat College email for posting my lectures / PowerPoints via YouTube, as well as our class assignments, which include short essays, in-class reader responses, Blackboard discussions, the test, and then the final essay. So it's going to become really important, highly imperative that you check your email every day for my lecture. By 2 o'clock will be the latest I'll post it. I'll send it to you in your email. But typically it'll be in the morning. Also, on that note, I'm recycling. Most of the lecture is going to be, I think, recycled from prior semester. I'll redo the beginning part and the end of the lecture so it adheres to our class and our schedule. But just ignore any dates, and I'll tell you within that lecture. Ignore any dates that seem like, oh, what is he talking about? He's talking about something being due in July or June, right? Obviously, it's from another class, and I'm just using the same lecture. I'm recycling it, okay? And check Blackboard as well every day. That's where we're going to do a lot of our heavy lifting with regard to posting our assignments is in Blackboard, and engaging in discussions and in-class reader responses will be all through Blackboard. So become familiar with it. Grade assessment. So those 2 short essays, 15% each, 3 in-class reader responses, an easy 5%. Just go in there and respond. And the responses are typically, at most, a paragraph. 3 Blackboard discussions. Those could be just a couple sentences. So it's an easy 5% that you can get. The test is 15%. You have all day to do that. The final essay, you can see it's important. It's a big chunk of the percentage of your grade, right? It's weighted 20%. So that's become important. Because as we progress through these texts and as the semester progresses, we should become more academic in our writing and become more sophisticated, and our writing should become more solid and better and more evocative. And then your participation, 5%. Let's see. Okay, dates of major assessments. 2 short essays. You can see the dates here. 3 in-class reader responses. You can see the dates. 3 Blackboard discussions, dates, tests, and participation in courses ongoing. Final exam. You'd be happy to know there is not a final exam for this class. That'll be great for you, as you have other final exams in other classes. Late assignments. Missed exam policy. So we don't have an exam, but we do have assignments. You are responsible for turning your work in on time. Assignments should be submitted to Blackboard before midnight on the specific due date. And I'm going to tell you that day, hey, today is, as you know, per the course outline, the first essay is due via Blackboard. Here are the instructions for posting at the Blackboard. Late assignments will be penalized 5% per day. Work will not be accepted more than 7 days after the posted deadline. Work submitted more than 7 days late will receive a grade of 0. I typically don't have that issue. Individuals might reach out to me and they might say it's going to be a day late. And then you get gigged 5%. Deadlines will not be extended without penalty unless you have a valid reason, illness, family emergency, and you email me, asking for an extension at least 24 hours before the assignment is due. In some cases, such as medical illness, I may ask for documentation. If you will need to miss a class for documented illness or a religious holiday or other religious activity and need accommodation, be in touch with me well in advance if possible so we can plan accordingly. All right. Academic dishonesty, plagiarism, and cheating are serious offenses and may be punished by failure on exam, paper, or project, failure in course, and/or expulsion from the course. This typically isn't a problem. I've had it once or twice because if you take it in any other class this semester, we have to produce an essay. Most you have to, and if you upload it to Blackboard, and most um, professors require that, you know that we run it through Blackboard, a program in Blackboard that catches plagiarism and reaches out to the internet and shows us where maybe a student might accidentally or on purpose plagiarized. So just give attribution, say according to so and so, Slaughterhouse-Five is an anti-war novel, as an example, unquote, right? I gave attribution, I gave the so and so, right? Um, and then just cite properly using your works cited page and your in-text citations, and we'll go over that next couple classes, MLA, right? That'll help you understand that so you can avoid any type of plagiarism. Common grading scheme, like every other class, you can see here, A plus, A minus. And like I said before, there's going to be individuals that get a B, or sorry, a B minus, or like, wow, can I just get one more point to get a B, to get a 72? Well, I'm going to point you towards that rubric that I'm going to email you and post to Blackboard. And you tell me, you make an argument for that. Excessive, because typically a B paper, any grade that I give, it's pretty deserved. I would have anguished over it to make sure that it falls within that realm of whatever grade you get. Accessibility statement, this might apply to some of you. If you are a student that requires additional accommodation to support your learning and have been approved through our Accessibility Service office, please contact your instructor prior to exam or any other forms of evaluation if accommodation is desired or required. So you might require accommodation. I don't foresee it within this class. If you do, that's fine. Send me the paperwork. But the reason I say I don't foresee it is because we don't have an exam. We don't have a midterm. That's another thing. I'm going to get emails about midterm. We don't have a midterm either within this class. Just about essays and then the final test at the end, which is a multiple choice, 25 question multiple choice test. Oh, excuse me. So mental health statement, this is important. Medicine College recognizes the importance of student mental health and well-being and has many resources available for supporting students throughout their academic journey. Services such as counseling, support groups, self-help modules dedicated to helping you manage things like anxiety, stress, depression, and relationships are accessible to students on the campus as well as online. To connect with mental health and counseling, visit the student advising desk across from the registration by calling this number, and information is also available through this link. So that'll become important. I think they're only meeting online now and on via phone. So, if you enter the dark days of say midterms, middle of the semester, and all these assignments are culminating, reach out to me if you have some problems. Reach out to them. I would say they don't contact me unless you want them to, right? So it's completely anonymous, right? They're not going to know your name unless you want them to, or what instructors you're having problems with unless you want them to. In addition, the Student at Risk Support Team, SARS, is here to respond to concerns around the mental health and physical well-being, security, and academic issues, offering additional intervention and connecting students with appropriate resources on campus. And here's that web link. Please use those if you feel at any time that you're highly stressed out. And you see it every few semesters, a student, they drop off the radar and they go radio silent, and they're not posting assignments to the Blackboard. We've done maybe 5 assignments that have been graded, but none of them, or maybe they only have 2 that are in the grade center, right? So you obviously see there's a problem. I'll email you and say, hey, what's going on? But just be proactive and email me, reach out to mental health individuals that are experts in that field. Student responsibility. So what the heavy lifting you have to do. General notes on conduct and expectations. Students have read the assignments. You should have read the assignments material before online lectures and be ready to share their ideas in our Blackboard discussions. So please just come to class, come to the lectures, having read the material. It helps out. It really helps you make strong connections with when I lecture on that material. Needless to say, I hope students should never sleep, send text messages, surf the internet. Okay, I'm not going to go over this. Obviously, you're going to be doing all that. during the lecture, and that's fine. It's up to you because you're at home at your leisure listening to these lectures. Only students who have received accommodation through the Accessibility Service Office are permitted to make video or sound recordings of any part of this class. But it's going to be, you're going to have free access to this class lecture because it's going to be out there forever on YouTube. So I don't even know how that applies. Uh, Students are responsible for frequently, this is important, checking their Medicine Hat College email address and class Blackboard in order to remain current with administrative and academic notifications. So really, for me, it's going to be imperative that you check your email on a daily basis. And if you don't get a lecture from me by 2 o'clock, that means one of two things that happened. You've received so many emails that my email got buried down in your email, which is most likely what would happen. Or for whatever reason, I didn't send it out, which wouldn't have been the case. I would have sent it out. Okay, so it probably got buried in your email. So just go through it and find my lecture. If you find yourself struggling in the course, do come by to see me during office hours, online obviously, or email me to discuss potential remedies and accommodations. All right, that's it. Page 5. Yep. All right, so it's going to be an exciting semester. We're covering some really exciting texts, both from the past and as well as contemporary works that I think will really help you understand really how to write at an academic and university level within an English class. I look forward to teaching everyone. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please email me at any time. Talk to you guys later. See you next class. Bye.